Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is in regards to training, and the title is Using Muscle Damage for Fat Loss. So this is going to be kind of specific towards contest prep in terms of dieting down for aesthetic-based shows. So that would be the bodybuilding, figure, fitness, bikini, all that stuff. But this also helps general population in terms of how to kind of navigate losing body fat while holding onto muscle tissue, and also losing body fat without having to do endless amounts of cardio. So the general concept of fat loss can kind of be boiled down to reducing calories, and that can either be through reducing the intake of calories, or increasing your usage of calories. So how many calories you burn versus how many calories you eat. So typically people are going to try to navigate a little bit of both of those. Typically they should. Most people actually, they just think of eating less will help. Most often people miss the move more of the equation. So it's kind of like eat less, move more equals fat loss. So they just think eat less, move the same, as in probably none, equals fat loss. But the move more is a huge component that people don't factor in as importantly as they should. So let's go into this in terms of contest prep. But again, remember that this is very good information for general population as well. And you'll see how it kind of fits you if you're general population as we're going through this. So typically, most contest prep diets, when done incorrectly, they involve decreasing calorie count, decreasing caloric amounts over time throughout the prep, while also increasing cardio. And that's typically what people use. So they kind of keep their weight training the same, and they decrease their caloric intake, and they increase their caloric expenditure, but they do it through cardio. And that is an enormously messed up concept. So the move more is way better applied if you move more in terms of resistance training. So stuff that involves your muscles and actually will cause muscular damage, not cardio. Ugh. Now, part of the reason why people did this was if you're reducing caloric intake, you are going to reduce the amount of, well, not really the amount of muscle, but kind of the rate in which your body can build and repair muscle. So if you're eating in a caloric surplus, you tear up your muscles a lot, the body can kind of go full steam ahead and repair the muscle as much as it likes. However, if you are eating less than your maintenance level, the body uses the calories very sparingly, and it'll slow down its rate of muscle synthesis, muscle creation, and also muscle repair. So that's true that our muscle repair process is lessened during a caloric deficit, but it doesn't mean it's non-existent. So it doesn't mean you can't take advantage of it. And also, if you use the concept of muscle involved activities, so things that cause muscular damage, you can actually eat more and not need to be in as much of a caloric deficit. So again, we said the equation for fat loss is eat less, move more. Well, if you do more of the moving, you don't have to eat as less as the less. So your calories don't have to go down as much if your movement goes up even more. So that is a huge thing to think of. In fact, your calories can stay the same if you go ahead and move more. So that equation of eat less, move more, it's kind of like A plus B equals C. Well, if you do more and more of B, you don't need to increase A. So it's okay to not even have to decrease your food as long as you're moving more and more. Now, obviously, we're going to want to get a little bit of both components to get the best results. But what we want to focus on is increasing muscle activity actually burns more calories. So you burn more calories by having your muscles be active and then also having to be repaired following the exercise. So it's true that if I kind of did like intervals on a treadmill for 20 minutes versus a normal meandering pace workout for weight training for 20 minutes, I'm going to burn more calories doing the intervals on the treadmill. However, if you take that interval structure, let's say you're active for 1 minute, like say you have high intensity for 1 minute, low intensity for 30 seconds, and you alternate. If you do that with weights, you're going to get the same freaking results as you would on the treadmill. However, you're actually going to burn more calories because the muscles involved in the weight training are going to use up oxygen as your lungs are using up oxygen, and that equates to like glucose, and there's a whole bunch of sciencey stuff, but it equates to burning more calories in the activity when you have both your lungs and your muscles active. And then also, if you lift heavy enough to cause muscular damage, your body has to expend calories to fix and repair that muscle. And that's going to, again, increase your calorie expenditure. And that'll increase fat loss. So that's actually what we want to do. So the method that I use for my contest clients is to use cardio, traditional cardio, very, very sparingly. So I've helped people get pro cards, and they never spent more than 20 minutes at one time on doing any cardio. And that would be shocking to people who have done preps before, not done this way. So there's people I've talked to that have done, oh my gosh, like an hour a day would be like a light day for them. So they might have 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening, plus their weight training. I've had some people come to me and they did 3 hours of cardio during a prep before, and that's absolutely ridiculous. So that it might have been the best information that you had been given to you, so I'm not creating the knock on you. So props to you if you did that yourself. So I remember I helped a friend way back when kind of survive his diet. So he wrote his own diet and training, and it ended up involving 4 hours of cardio every morning. And I think we did it for the last at least 4 weeks, if not longer than that. So we did it 4 hours of cardio every morning. Then we went and I taught at the university and took classes. And then we had to come back in the evening and weight train. We usually weight train for about an hour and a half. So we were in the gym 5.5 hours a day to get that person in shape. And it was absolutely the wrong way to do preps. But at that time, that's what he knew. And that's actually kind of what I knew at that time. I wouldn't have known enough to argue against the process. It did feel wrong, and I did have an idea of how to do it differently, but I wouldn't have had a great way to kind of express that yet. So, but I have done that. So I have been the person that spent 4 hours a day on cardio. Yep, so just soak that in. That's an hour of staring into random nothingness, and again, you go to the bathroom, then you walk for another hour, go to the bathroom, walk for another hour. You pretend to have to go to the bathroom just so you can get off the damn treadmill and do something different. Then you walk for a whole another hour. So it was 4 hours of cardio. I've also done the fasted step meal stuff. So I did step meal intervals for an hour, fasted in the morning, and oh my gosh, did I just waste a ton of muscle tissue. So I've done all the dumb things that I'm telling you guys not to do, and hopefully you don't have to do them. So if I stuck my finger in a light socket, hopefully you can learn from me getting zapped, and you don't have to get zapped yourself. So that's the idea of this podcast. It is not to kind of tout myself and saying that I know the secret. It's more so that I've done all the dumb stuff you could possibly do, realized it didn't work as well as this approach. So that's why I want to share this one, is this works way better, and it's a lot less time intensive. So that's the main idea we're looking for here, though, is using the movement component of the fat loss equation to a better application of that movement component. So instead of using cardio, let's use muscle-involved activities. So even in an activity like a muscular circuit, let's just say you move some light dumbbells around, and let's say you do goblet squats, stiff leg deadlifts, walking lunges, and then maybe like swings, like kettlebell swings, but with a dumbbell. You kind of do those 4 exercises. You do it in a circuit for maybe like 12 to 16 minutes. That's going to be the same as kind of doing cardio on a treadmill, but since you're using your muscles, you're going to burn more calories in that time, and then also it sends a signal to your body that muscles are important, they're being used, therefore they shouldn't be ripped off and taken away, so that prevents the body from reducing muscle tissue during a diet as severely as it would without the use of the muscles. And then also it creates kind of a more caloric damage, muscle damage that your body has to make up for, and that in turn burns more and more calories. So lightweight circuits, they do the effect of kind of lightweight cardio, where you get calories burned, but you also get more calories burned because the muscles are involved, and you get the signal to maintain muscle mass. When you do heavier activities, where the activities actually cause muscular damage, you get kind of all those benefits, plus you get the caloric benefit of the investment having to be made into repairing those muscles. So that's what we're looking for. So the bullet points of this is to increase muscle activity to help you burn more calories. You want to increase the muscle frequency so you can maximize your recovery time frame. We'll talk about that in a second. Then always keep muscles healing and repairing. So that's part of the frequency. So if we know muscles repair on average in most bodybuilding workouts, it takes 2 to 4 days for muscles to repair. Well, if you know that, and maybe you only train to a 2-day level of repair intensity, but you're waiting 3 or 4 days to train, you're wasting time. So I actually like to have my people train their muscles about 2 to 3 times per week, and preferably we make 3 times per week be legs and or a lagging body part or a body part that we know is kind of behind in terms of overall shape and volume. So that's kind of our idea. So by using weight training better, by using muscular damage better, it reduces your need to reduce calories overall. You can keep a calorie level higher during the diet. That helps them feel good because they're getting to eat more food. It helps keep the metabolism higher. So your body responds to anything you do over time. So if you continue to downgrade your calories throughout a diet, your body will downgrade to that amount of calories, and you have to continue to reduce later and later in the diet to get leaner. So if you use muscle damage, you don't have to reduce at as fast of a rate. Therefore, you keep your metabolism higher throughout the prep, and then you can drop the hammer if you need to, quote unquote, later in the prep and actually have more room to make caloric changes to get somebody even shredded leaner and leaner and leaner. So that's where a lot of times you'll hear people just kind of say towards the end of a diet, like, oh, my body just kind of shut off and like it wouldn't get any leaner, it just kind of stayed the same. Well, your metabolism probably went to crap by then. So by using muscle damage as part of your fat loss equation, you get to have a higher calories at the start of your diet. You get to have higher calories throughout your diet, and that prevents you from reaching that spot where the body just seemed to not change much anymore. So you can hear there's a ton of benefits to this. So, and kind of here, as another way to think of it is it allows you to have an extra tool in your tool belt. So if we typically think of reducing calories, cardio, and those are the only 2 tools you can manipulate. If you add in muscular damage as part of that equation for fat loss, you now have an extra tool to play around with. So that's kind of the idea. So how do we implement using muscle damage into contrast preps for helping with fat loss? Is we use lightweight circuits. So I mentioned the idea of like goblet squats, stiff leg deadlifts, walking lunges, and swings. So it's a lightweight circuit where there is muscular activity, but you're still reaching a cardiovascular kind of threshold. So you're still going to kind of be at like a top end cardiovascular threshold of what you can handle, but your muscles are kind of burning and screaming along the way too. So it's not a muscular failure first, it's still a cardiovascular failure first. However, there's a muscular component now to it. So that is, the terminology we use for that is called muscle cardio. And we've done a podcast in the past. So if you go to our podcast homepage and you do a search term in the podcast, you can search muscle cardio. And there's a whole big long podcast about what that is and how to implement that. So that takes the place of traditional cardio in our programming. So when I say that they don't have to do traditional cardio more than 20 minutes at a time, that's how, because we use a lot of muscle cardio, is in replacement of traditional cardio. And that's way more fun, it's way more effective, you don't need as much time invested into it. So like a 20-minute circuit of muscle cardio will damn near kill you, and it'll be way more effective than 60 minutes walking on a treadmill. So it's way more effective, it's time friendly, and like we said, it has that extra benefit of signaling to the body that muscles are important. Please don't lose muscle or tear muscle down to adjust your metabolism. So it's awesome for aesthetics in terms of losing fat but still looking good and keeping your muscular curves. So the other things we do is we increase training our muscles to minimum twice a week and 3 times a week, usually on legs and or a lagging body part, depending on how the person's life structure is. So if they're super duper busy at work or they're super stressed, they have kids or they have 2 jobs, we have to sometimes downgrade from what we'd love to do because it's just not feasible with their lifestyle. So the other thing we do is we change the volume and the intensity and the style of the training. So we've talked before about how muscle damage for shaping and or growth components goals. You can use either a pump, like a metabolic damage where you kind of create such a burn and a pump in that muscle, you annoy the muscle so dang bad that it has to respond by getting bigger and allowing its processes within a muscle cell to grow to handle that stress. Then the other example of how do you get muscles to grow and shape is through sheer heaviness of a weight, and that actually tears the muscle fibers. So we used the equation, like kind of the concept before, of if I want to kind of blow up a balloon, and the balloon would be the representation of a muscle cell, is I can either blow into the balloon as hard as I can until the thing will pop. So that's the pump style. Or I can create small little cuts in the balloon with a knife, and then just blow into it a little bit, and all of a sudden it'll pop. So that's the idea. So we want to use tearing workouts and pump style workouts. So since we want to increase our frequency, we can't do tearing stuff as much because it has a higher negative impact on joints and CNS, making you feel tired. Whereas we can use the pump stuff because even though you're going to feel super sore from those workouts, you recover much faster. So typically what I do is in our 3 workouts per week, we have a pump style workout, a tearing style workout, and then another pump style. And the first pump is much heavier than the second pump, and the first pump has kind of like a medium volume. The tearing is lower volume, and the second pump workout is super high volume, but nothing's very heavy. So we have a lot of variety and switch and change between the volume and the intensities of those workouts. That allows us to maximize our recovery per workout to where we can fit more and more and more workouts into a given time frame of, say, like 7 days in a week. It allows us to burn more calories because we're more and more active, and it allows us to match our frequency to our recovery, so that way by the end of the prep, they're not like, joints hurting, everything's dying, their muscles aren't getting so stressed from cortisol and CNS fatigue and stuff that they start washing out and feeling like soft and kind of like just deflated. So if you do this stuff correctly, they're going to end their workout, their training, their contest prep, they're going to end feeling like a freaking beast and still hitting like amazing exercises and lifts and stuff. They're not going to hit maybe like PRs in terms of a 1 rep max, but they're still going to be putting out really maximal, awesome work on the volume style workouts. So that's kind of the idea. Is, again, we want to train our body parts 2 to 3 times per week and trying to use the muscle cardio as a way of just kind of replacing traditional cardio, where it's still a cardiovascular burn, but the muscles are involved. All the muscles you want to train at least 2, if not 3 times a week, and you want to alternate between tearing style workouts and pump style workouts. So that way you can maximize how often you can train those muscles during a given time frame of, say, a week. So that's the idea. So this is one of the ways that I approach programming for clients, and it works really well, especially if a person is coming from a prep in which they did a ton of cardio, traditional style, and a really low calorie amount. And the reason why it works well coming after that is that was such a horrible process to the body that whenever you present it this way that actually builds the body building, hey, that's a term for a reason. It's not body tearing down, it's body building. So if we treat the body nice and we work within the mechanisms and manners that it likes, you can get awesome results and the person's going to feel much better in their prep. So I am actually helping a female do a figure show using these kind of theories. So if anybody would like a free example of this type of training structure, like programming, shoot us an email at brutalironGym@gmail.com, and I'll send you her most recent program, like a 4-week program, so you can see what it looks like. And then obviously we would help you if you're looking for personalized programming involving these kind of concepts and you want to try this approach. You can reach out to us again in our email, brutalironGym@gmail.com, and we'll help you do that. So we'll help you create a personalized program based on these concepts. And like I said, I've helped people get pro cards, win shows, all this stuff. It absolutely works, and they've never had to spend more than 20 minutes on a cardio. So, hey, sounds pretty good, right? So, the other thing here is if you want to kind of take this information on your own and create a program, awesome, please do. If you're looking for kind of like a pairing information in terms of diet, so what the diet structure that works well with this training structure, then you want to look at podcast number 69, titled Overview of a Contest Prep Diet, and then podcast number 173, The Need for Caloric Cycling During Diets. So if you listen to both of those podcasts that'll kind of like put it all together in terms of information for the training and the diet. So, hopefully this helped you kind of understand why the involvement of muscle tissue movement and specifically getting muscle damage can actually help you lose fat faster and more efficiently, and while you're eating more, and spend less time on the treadmill. So it's a huge component that a lot of people really miss out on and don't tweak it and play with it enough, as well as they think of all the nuances of their diet. We absolutely should be thinking of all the nuances of our training, and specifically our resistance training, not our cardiovascular training. Okay? So hopefully this kind of opened your eyes to it, and maybe it's something you'd want to give a try. So, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like the podcast, you can sign up to become a patron of the podcast by donating $10 or more per month towards the podcast. And for your donation, we'll send you monthly training programming. So yes, monthly training programming for only $10 a month. Pretty darn cheap. And in those programs, we actually have aesthetic training that has these structures and everything involved. So, hey, if you want a good program that is written for generic populations, but it has these concepts implied, so it's probably better than whatever program you're following now, and it's only $10 a month. So, if you'd like that, you can sign up to become a patron directly on the Podbean app. You can send us an email or do a Google search for Become a Patron Brutal Iron Gym Podcast. And if you like this information, please share it with family and friends. So the more people we help, the happier the world's going to be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So this podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. Okay? Our email is brutalironGym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.